What's up, bro?
Aye.
There's not a rule that you have to use the 3 subs.
He's the best left back.
1,000 to 1 now the odds they're giving us. A lot of them are in for a surprise. We've got a mighty team that no one else has seen. The stars of Canada are on the rise. But who can lay down odds on the hearts of 11 men? Oh Canada, our hearts are ringing true. We've won for you before and we'll win for you again. Oh Canada, we'll proudly play for you. Dale Mitchell has touches like no one else has got. In Mexico we'll show them how to play. And striker George Pecos has a rifle for a shot. And Tino Latieri saves the day. Bobby Landerduzzi and Chris Wilson will be there. Their years of dedication have come through. Their courage and their pride with their teammates they have shared. Oh Canada, we'll share it now with you. But who can lay down odds on the hearts of 11 men? Oh Canada, our hearts are ringing true. We've won for you before and we'll win for you again. Oh Canada, we'll proudly play for you. To Mexico we go with an optimistic heart. There is nothing that we cannot do. Reagan Gray and Samuel Bridge and Sweeney are just parts of a mighty team that proudly plays for you. But who can lay down odds on the hearts of 11 men? Oh Canada, our hearts are ringing true. We've won for you before and we'll win for you again. Oh Canada, we'll proudly play for you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the third Pregame live show presented by Macy Sports. We've got a big one. We've got an express edition of the show, so we're going to get right into it. I'm your co-host, Alexander Geiger-Ruzik, joined, as always, by Samuel Rowan. But Sam, it's a big one. How are you feeling out of this one?
Man, I'm still recovering from U.S. Qatar. That was a chaotic match, to say the least. Had an Ali Adnan-esque missed penalty in there. Certainly some CONCACAF shenanigans, 10 minutes of extra time. It had some of everything. I mean, as a neutral, a disappointing result, I think, would have been nice just for pure chaos to see Qatar get through. But now, Canada knows that if they're able to make it through, that's their opponent in the final. And obviously big match ahead tonight. I mean, the challenge can't be overstated. So looking forward to it. Maybe first time I feel like in this tournament with a bit of, I felt a lot of confidence going into Costa Rica. I think Mexico is maybe a little bit more nervousness. The feeling is different, but we're going to see what Canada can produce against a top side in CONCACAF.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's also a good opportunity. The Canada's playing with house money heading into this tournament. Had they not made the World Cup, final round, the qualifiers, the Octo, yes, pressure would have been very, very high on them. But they've already made the Octo. For them, this tournament is all about preparing. Well, they've done that. They got through the group stage. That's good mentality to do that. It's not easier said than done for some teams. They went to a quarterfinal against a tough CONCACAF veteran. Basically, Costa Rican A side. Aside from Keylor Navas, that is pretty much close to an A-type A side, as we'll see when they play each other in November. Canada went out and beat them despite missing a few regulars. That's a huge test. And now they got the third part of the test, playing against 72,000 fans that aren't going to be cheering in your favor. That's test number 3. So obviously, if they win it, they've passed all those tests with flying colors. But for the most part, considering the state of their squad and how things have kind of, theoretically, it should be deteriorating throughout the tournament. They keep losing players. They keep losing injuries. Now they've got suspensions, yet every time they've suffered a blow, they've stepped up bigger each time. And that's credit to this Canadian side. I think the one thing, if we're going to say heading into the Octo, that I'm fully confident about is Canada's depth. Off the bench, they're very deep now. I didn't realize how deep they were. I mean, again, they're like 6, 7, 8 guys deep, and they're still pulling out consistent quality players. And then yeah, so be the depth for injuries, and the depth off the bench are huge. And I think that's the biggest thing we've learned. And that's credit to Canada. They've bossed so far a tournament that no one expected them to boss. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, do we want to talk? Let's talk a little bit about that depth and the couple guys that are getting starts because of yellow card accumulation, because of suspension. You got Daniil Henry in the lineup. You got Tesho Akindele in the lineup. Thoughts on the roles those guys can play? You know, especially Daniil at the back in the back three. He's played a lot in that style in Korea, but hasn't played a ton for this men's national team recently. What are your expectations for those two guys heading into this one? Obviously, you know, the biggest of stages so far in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise the 3-5-2 kind of explains itself, really. I mean, we got all 9 of the same starters, pretty much the guys you'd expect. You got Maxime Crepeau, you go to the back, Kamal Miller, Alistair Johnston, all these guys written in pen at this point, Tejon Buchanan, Richie Larea, that midfield trio of Stefan Eustáquio, Jonathan Osorio, Marc-Anthony Kaye. First of all, what a discussion the midfield is going to be for when everyone is fit and healthy. Like, my goodness. And then, you know, going up front, Tesho Akindele and Junior Hoylett. Junior Hoylett obviously locked in. So for Akindele and Henry to come in, I think their jobs are going to be easy. I think Akindele first to fill in Cavallini's role. I mean, Cavallini, in terms of his role for Canada's Gold Cup, he's been more of a pressing forward. He hasn't necessarily had to be super involved with the build-up play. Hasn't, necessarily had to deal with the high volume of touches. He's kind of had to serve as a disruptor. And I think that'll be easier for Akindele to adjust to than, say, being inserted into a role where you're kind of playing like a false nine. You need all these touches, you need this and that. So I'm fully confident Akindele can fulfill the role applied, that'll be asked of him. I think the Canada's play generates through the midfield and through those wingbacks for a reason. I think against Mexico, that's going to be even more evident based on how they play. And then as for Henry, I think slotting into this middle of a back three suits him quite nicely. He won't have to deal with the outside speed that Mexico has to offer. So his job is just to kind of come in and marshal things. And I think he did a good job of that in the Haiti game back in World Cup qualifier. So I got full confidence in those two changes.
And then looking at the Mexico side, who do you have circled? Who presents the biggest problem for Canada? If there's a bomb threat in this match to bag a couple goals for Mexico, or a matchup you don't like, what are you looking at?
Yeah, well, I'll put the lineup right now, actually, because I'm just seeing it here. Been quite the day. So just as it loads up, yep. Just looking at it's interesting. Edson Alvarez slot in at the heart of midfield. I think that kind of shows that Mexico realizes the threat they have that Canada has in midfield. Because in their last game, they went a little more attacking in their midfield three than they did today. So Alvarez's insertion certainly strikes me. But if not, Jonathan Dos Santos and Hector Herrera. Boy, like, what a battle that's going to be in the midfield between those 6 players. Like, this could be, arguably on paper, these are 2 of the best fields in CONCACAF right now. You got Jonathan Dos Santos. Obviously, we know the quality he has to offer in terms of his passing. Hector Herrera, just, an all-around workhorse. He's got that Atletico Madrid DNA. Not going to be a fun player to play against. Edson Alvarez for Ajax. He's a very solid number 6. That's going to be a good matchup for Canada, because obviously Jonathan Osorio, Marc-Anthony Kaye, and Stefan Eustáquio. Eustáquio's playing like an MVP. I think Alvarez's insertion is kind of to deal with what Eustáquio's done so far. Osorio, very quality player. Kaye. For me, that battle in midfield, Mexico clearly realizes it could be a problem. They tried to address that. I'm curious to see. Otherwise, Rogelio Funes Mori, he's a very good number 9. He's going to be one heck of a task for Daniil Henry to have to come in and deal with. I mean, Funes Mori is going to be a handful, as he has been all tournament. If not, though, I mean, otherwise, it's interesting to see that Mexico aren't really playing with wingers, with, Joe Corona and Orbelin Pineda. It's not necessarily your traditional wingers. They're more, kind of midfielder. Sorry, Jesus Corona. Oh yeah, no, sorry, Jesus Corona. The midfielder from Porto. He is, again, not your traditional wide player. He has played at fullback. He has played in the middle in the past. So I think the fact that Mexico, the way they play, is through their fullback. So for me, I look at the last 2 players are Gallardo and Rodriguez at fullback. They love to send their fullbacks forward. Most of their actions originate, get the ball in the middle, open up space, get the ball to a fullback, cross, get Funes Mori, and goal. So for me, those are the two areas to watch: midfield and fullback, and obviously Funes Mori up top.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was gonna probably circle Funes Mori, but it's very dependent on those fullbacks getting involved and the wide areas of the back three for Canada being put under stress. Because if you can have three center backs essentially, taking care of Funes Mori, well, then you might not have any problems. But if that defensive line gets stretched, if he can find himself in pockets, he knows how to bag goals. He's been doing it in Mexico consistently. So that's something that, certainly Canada has to watch out for. Just looking at D Herms here in the comments, talking about, the possibility that maybe Mexico is overconfident heading into this one. I think it's interesting because Canada is maybe not the team that people are expecting. Like, I even felt that to a certain extent with the US match, despite the fact that the result went the wrong way. I don't know if the United States was fully ready for the test they were going to get from Canada, especially as that match went on. And it is a good question, is Mexico going to treat this as seriously as they should? And maybe Canada can pull a US against them and, get the jump with an early goal. That seems like a good format for success.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with this Canadian side being a lot better. We kind of talked about it, and it's worth
even
noting,
with the
Mexico,
rotation.
Exactly, even with the rotation. And what I find most interesting is that Mexico in these kinds of semifinals, this is kind of their weak spot, so to speak, in major tournaments, at least Gold Cup. In most Gold Cups, they've walked through their last couple quarterfinals, no problem. They've done pretty well in finals. But if you look at the recent semifinal record, I think they beat Haiti on pens last year. The time before that, I think it would have been 2017. I don't even think they made the final. I think that final was US Jamaica. So Mexico lost the semifinal. The time before that, they barely won on penalties. The record in the last 5 semifinals, if I'm not mistaken, I think is just over 500. And the 2 wins they had were a penalty shootout win and extra time win. So Mexico, for whatever reason, they get really confident in the quarterfinals. They know how to take care of business in the finals. But that semifinals, it's maybe you get a little confident. You think you're pretty much in the final. No one else can beat us. It's rarely ever Mexico US in the final, in the semifinal. That always seems to get set up for, the finals. Canada could maybe catch Mexico sleeping, like D Herms mentions in the comments. So I am wondering, can Canada come off to a bright start? Because for me, the fact how brightly they start against Costa Rica was a big factor. It really took the Costa Rican crowd out of the game. It took Costa Rica out of the game. They were almost like, we want to cruise. And Canada's like, no, we're setting up the tempo. We're playing our way. Obviously, Mexico, they can adapt a little better to the Canadian tempo than Costa Rica can. Costa Rica, obviously, a little older side. They like to kind of slow things down and play at their own pace. I think Mexico can match that. But with the crowd, if Canada finds a way to take the crowd out, be it some early pressure, an early goal obviously would to do wonders. That could be a way to unsettle Mexicans and get them doubting and get them on the back foot. So for Canada, I think you can absolutely take care of the overconfidence in this game, but it's going to come down to a bright start because, as we've seen, the longer you stay in a fight with Mexico, the longer it's going to, you're going to get hurt in the end. Heck, I think we saw it in the other game, Qatar's wastefulness. I mean, throughout the whole 90, they had their chances. And then the U.S. just had to, of course, it's Giassi Zardes in the 86th minute. Like it was destined to happen. So that's kind of the thing with Canada. I feel like this game, I guess we'll kind of go into predictions in a few minutes here, but one scenario I certainly could see is it's 0-0. You don't score and then it's a Funes Mori 82nd minute goal. It's kind of anticlimactic. You kind of like, okay, it's Mexico. At least you tried, but it's frustrating because you could have had it. And I think even back to the U23s, Canada were doing decently against Mexico, had their chances, and then you give away the ball 70th minute, give up a poor goal, and it's just game over. So for Canada, getting an early goal would go a long, long way because if not, it's going to be a very, very, very uphill battle from there.
Yeah, you absolutely read my line, read my mind, and you stole my idea. The U23s just sprung to mind. They were in that match. I can even think of moments, the David Norman Jr. where he's standing up in the guy's face. And it's like, yes, this is the kind of chaos that could inspire something, but they weren't able to seize that momentum. And it kind of felt similar to Qatar today where they had that chaos. They had the momentum in their favor, but when you squander it over and over again, eventually the quality of the other side maybe takes over. And it just felt like for whatever reason, those moments, for Qatar today, it went wanting. Same thing for Canada again at the under 23 level. So I think, an early start or the ability to just kind of quell surges from the other team, because I think Canada did a terrific job of that against Costa Rica. They made some subs at the beginning of the second half. A guy like Luis Diaz came on and was buzzing for a couple of minutes, but then Canada controlled with their midfield again and just kind of said, no, you're not going to dictate the pace. We're going to take back over. Obviously far more difficult against Mexico, but Canada's got to find this balance of, being reserved, being cautious, but also dictating when they can.
Yeah, and I think against these giants at CONCACAF, you have to unsettle, because they're the favorites, and they have this comfort, they have this belief that even if it's the
we saw the U.S. men's national team pull some CONCACAF stuff with that penalty, like they were getting fully involved.
Yeah, so it's going to come down to Canada finishing their chances, and I mean, Sam, I'll pose you the simple question. Yeah. Does Canada have enough offense tonight? I mean, you're down. If you're looking at the striker depth chart, first of all, you're down Jonathan David, you're down Kyle Larin, you're down Io Akinola, you're down Lucas Cavallini, who's obviously suspended, so he could be back for a final. Thankfully, he's not completely written off. But all this to say, you're down. You're down so many strikers. If you're Canada, is Tesho Akindele and Junior Hoylett enough to get that goal? I think personally, against a Costa Rica, against another team, that might be enough. But against Mexico, you just need that extra quality. So, I mean, do you think that Canada does have enough to get a goal, or does this have to really be a 0-0? Does this have to be a set piece? Does this have to be something like that? Or do you think they have what it takes to get that pivotal goal?
No, I'm relatively confident, and I didn't get the result right last time, but I picked Junior Hoylett to score a goal, and he rewarded me. And I feel like the same thing I said last time applies. He is advertising himself for his next job. And I feel like he's been on a pretty good run of form since he came in, much better than we saw in some of the World Cup qualifying stuff against much smaller teams. So I think Hoylett's got a goal for Canada tonight. I don't know if it's enough, but I do think Canada has a goal in them.
No, that's it. I certainly think Canada has some sort of goal, but it's just, you look at the strikers, it's just really unfortunate that it's come to this, but it's a good opportunity. I rate Tesho. He's scored some big goals for Orlando this year. He has the knack. He's a finisher. He knows how to finish, and that's what you need from him. I mean, again, you'd like to have what would be like to have a Jonathan David right about now, for example, amongst others. But I certainly think Tesho Akindele can provide the spark needed, but can he provide the finishing action? I guess if Steven Eustachio wants to keep scoring a goal a game, I mean, no better time to continue that trend. But I guess we're kind of nearing the end of this express edition of the pregame live show. Should we just not skip anything and dive right into the predictions?
Well, I have one more thing I want to bring up before we go to predictions. This will be quick, but Jesse Zardes comes off the bench for the U.S. after DK couldn't get anything going and ends up having the moment of the match. Looking at the Canadian bench, who's on there that could have a moment, because it's getting thinner and thinner, but there are still some guys on there. Corbeanu, Pasher are two guys I look at and think, hey, maybe there's a spark late in the match if it's that KG 0-0 that we've talked about. But Alex, I'm curious for your thoughts and then we can maybe just dive straight into predictions off of that.
Well, considering there's two goalkeepers, two defensive midfielders, a center back, and an 9-year-old forward and an attacking midfielder played first. More confident if Canada's making subs up a goal than they are down a goal. They certainly have the tools to lock a game down instead of chase a game. But I'd like to see Corbeanu. I think Theo Corbeanu could be the perfect antidote to a game like Mexico, because he plays so fearless. Whenever you've seen him, no matter if it's the Premier League, this or that, no matter the occasion, he hasn't shrunk. I think this is the good game for him to. I feel like if there's a game where you want to throw an extra, I don't think Corbeanu will be afraid of Mexico, of what they have to offer. So I'd like to see him if Canada needs a goal. I think other than that, I think Canada's best assets are maybe coming, locking a game down. But Tyler Pasher also is an X factor. It's just hard for him because he doesn't really fit into this 3-5-2. I'd say I think his ideal position is that wide in a 4-5-1 and a 4-3-3. But maybe, if the moment calls for it, he could also be an X factor but for offense, based on the current depth situation, it really lies on Corbinel's surprisingly big shoulders for his age. Obviously, he's a big boy. He's got, he certainly has ate his vegetables in his time, but I don't know, maybe a Samuel Pitt up striker. What a way to get for him to get his first Canadian goal. But jokes aside, predictions. Maybe you can predict Samuel Piet's first ever international goal. But Sam, let's dive into this.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going with that. That might be a little bit bold for my taste, but as I said, I do think Canada has a goal in them. And obviously, in my heart of hearts, I want Canada to find a result in this match. I want them to get a final against the United States, but I'm worried that just with the lack of overall depth, despite the fact that they're putting together a much better team than we might have seen in past years, I just don't think it's quite enough in this one. And Houston's probably the best one of the best places in the United States for a Mexico home match, so that might play a little bit of a factor as well. I'm going 2-1 Mexico, although it's not the result I want, it's not the result I'm hoping for, but I just feel like there might be just a little bit too much to overcome at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm feeling, unfortunately, for predictions in a similar boat. I'll go a 1-1 Mexico win on penalties. So I think it'll be somehow cagey. Mexico might pull one back, but I'll say 1-1 Mexico on penalties. It's hard to bet against them, but I think Canada makes a game out of this. I think just predictions, and I feel like Canada can win this game. I think if it's in terms of a split, maybe a few years ago, it would have been a 20-80 or a 30-70. I think this is a 60-40 or 65-35. Or 60 or 55-45, sorry, for Mexico. So I think Canada, that 1-1 could easily go in their favor, and they win on penalties. But for sake of predictions, I'll go 1-1 and Mexico winning. But hey, for those who wonder if our predictions are a bit pessimistic, and when we tend to pick together, results tend to go out the window. So there's always that worth considering.
Yeah, whenever there's a consensus, it tends to go the other way. So,
especially hopefully we're CONCACAF and MLS.
Hopefully we're using that power for good today. That's truly would be the best outcome. I'm happy to lose a little bit of clout on the predictions if Canada's able to advance. But Alex, any final thoughts here? We want to let everyone get ready for this one, and hopefully you enjoyed the express edition of the Third Sub Gold Cup live show. But yeah, Alex, any final thoughts before sign off here?
Yeah, I mean, pleased to join you as always for the Third Sub live show. Thanks to all that have tuned in. Obviously a bit of a shorter version today, but it's been a week. It's been a month. I mean, this month of July has been a month. This month of June, games coming left, right, center, up, down, side to side. So just happy to join you guys as usual for a short pregame show. And we'll certainly be back for more in the future. Maybe if Canada's in a final, we might have to be back for that. But on that note, that was the Third Sub pregame show presented by Macy's Sports. Shout out to everyone listening, and we'll catch you again soon.
Yeah, go Canada.